It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations. We cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Kruse.
Welcome to the show. Have you been out there hunting yet? I got to go out on opening day last weekend with my longtime friend and guide, Shelby Ross, the owner of Ross Outdoor Adventures. My best friend, Rusty, and I, along with his wife and his daughter and a few other friends, hunted together out of a blind, and we had a pretty good day. We ended up with 12 ducks, and we had a huge Canada goose come right into our decoy spread, and that goose was cooked. This week on the show, we've got some great guests for you. One of them is Richard Mann, well-known gun writer. He actually just wrote an article that you can read in Field and Stream about the best cartridges you're going elk hunting and which ones to use in specific situations. Richard also has a brand new book out featuring 50 hunts all over the world with 50 different cartridges, and he's going to tell you about that too. Another guest we'll have on today is Brooks Hansen with Camp Chef. He's fresh off of a hunt that he's going to tell you about. And then we're going to talk about what kind of stoves to use and what kind of meals to prepare at deer camp, whether it's a drive-in deer camp or a hike-in spike camp. And we'll also ask Brooks about what his future plans are for hunting this fall. Speaking of hunting, another guest we'll have on today is Cole Gander. He's with the National Deer Association, operating out of Missouri. He wrote a really good article with tips on recovering a gut-shot deer. Nobody wants to gut shoot a deer because it's going to be a while until that deer expires. And if you go at it the wrong way, you're going to bump that deer and probably never find it. It's a situation nobody wants to be in, but if you're looking to recover that animal, Cole's got the advice you need to do just that. In addition to this, we've got a nice story about a game warden and his canine that rescued an elderly person in Maine. And speaking of outdoors news, let's go ahead and share some more of that with you right now. We're going to start off in Arizona, where young hunters are wanted for the Pintail Youth Camp. The Arizona Game and Fish Department and Havasu National Wildlife Refuge are teaming up to help young hunters who want to learn all about waterfowl and small game hunting. The camp's taking place January 2nd through the 4th at Pintail Slough at Havasu National Wildlife Refuge. The deadline to register, though, is November 14th. The event is limited to 18 hunters between 12 and 17 years of age, and each must be accompanied by an adult. No prior experience is necessary. All youth hunters are going to learn how to identify, hunt, and clean waterfowl and small game before putting those skills to use at Pintail Slough's duck blinds. Anthony Grenier, the wildlife manager at the refuge, says, "If you aren't getting out, you're missing out. This is a great opportunity for parents to get outside with their kids and enjoy the outdoors." To request an application, call Arizona Game and Fish Department's regional office in Kingman and know that a refundable $40 registration fee is required. All participants will be chosen through a random draw and notified by email or telephone. Heading to Arkansas, Remington's 4th annual Shoot to Cure fundraiser was a tremendous success this year. Remington Ammunition recently hosted its 4th annual Shoot to Cure Sporting Clays fundraiser. All proceeds went to benefit the Arkansas Children's Hospital. This year's event was a huge success, raising nearly $19,000 and bringing the event's 4-year total over $50,000. Nice to see this happen. Turning to sporting goods and retail, the Daily Mail confirms that Orvis, a brand that's been around for 169 years, will close half of its outlets by early 2026, reducing its U.S. retail footprint from 71 to 35 locations. Orvis, of course, is known for its fly fishing gear and apparel, but things have not been going great for them. A year ago, Orvis began an effort to strengthen its business by scaling it down. The company announced plans to reduce its workforce by 8%, affecting 112 employees, and they're also discontinuing their catalog. Then in June, citing the impact of tariffs, Orvis announced an additional 50 layoffs, or about 4% of its remaining staff. Here's hoping Orvis can pull out of the spiral. They've been around for a long time, and we'd hate to see them go. Next, it's time for one of my favorite segments.
It's time to talk record fish.
From the Fishing Wire, we learned that the Maryland Department of Natural Resources has officially recognized James Frasetti Jr. of Crownsville, Maryland, with a state record for a 7-pound, 8-ounce pompano dolphin fish. Not only that, James is also a recipient of a Fish Maryland Master Angler Award. Frasetti is a saltwater and offshore fishing specialist who says fishing the blue water offshore is his favorite type of angling. The award-winning catches were made just one day apart in early October. Way to go, James.
Congratulations on your new record.
From Outdoor Life, we learn anti-hunting activists are at it again, this time in the state of Florida, where anti-hunters drew at least 23% of Florida's black bear tags, according to one local activist. Florida has 172 available lottery permits for its December black bear hunt, and they've been mostly claimed and paid for, according to the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission. But it appears many of those tags won't actually be used, as they were drawn by anti-hunters looking to thwart the upcoming bear season by keeping tags out of hunters' hands. Dak Collins, the news editor for Outdoor Life, writes that one Florida activist, Steve Rosen, told the Orlando Sentinel that, to his knowledge, at least 39 of the 172 available lottery permits, that's around 23% of the total, went to anti-hunters. Rosen said he spent roughly $200,000 of his own money on the lottery. At $5 a pop, this translates to roughly 40,000 tickets, or close to a quarter of the overall submissions. Rosen, who used at least some of that money to fund entries for other anti-hunters, did not immediately respond to a request for comment from Outdoor Life. But in a Facebook post on September 20th, a local Florida anti-hunting group, Angels in Distress, told its followers who oppose bear hunts that Rosen, the group's director, would pay for their hunting licenses as well as their entry fees. Florida Fish and Wildlife Communications Director Shannon Knowles told Outdoor Life that the agency was aware of this campaign to thwart the hunt. She said they weren't overly concerned about it having any real impact on the hunt, which is slated to run from December 6th to the 28th. Finally, if you're looking for a place to catch some quality trout this time of year, consider going to the Eastern Sierras of California. From Western Outdoor News, we learn that June Lake has been fishing well. The browns are starting to bite, according to Dan Legning of Dan's Guide Service. And the brown trout at this lake can get up to double-digit pounds in size. Some other places to go would be Rock Creek Lake and Lake Mary. An 8.5-pound rainbow was caught this month out of the former, and 20 to 25-inch cutthroat trout have been caught at Crowley Lake. Other lakes to fish include Lower Twin Lake, Grant Lake, Silver Lake, and East Walker River. Rush Creek is also a good brown trout fishery, but the section between Silver and Grant Lakes is closed. If you want to find out about more lakes to fish in the Eastern Sierras, go to WOnews.com, that's WOnews.com, and check out the article about fishing for trout in the Eastern Sierras. You know, it looks like we have time for one more fishing report, so let's go to Georgia and hear what the Georgia Department of Natural Resources has for us in North Georgia. At Lake Hartwell, bass fishing has been fair, but the cooler weather is starting to change everything for the better. Some bass are on deep brush and timber, and you can fish for them using drop shots with a Zoom Z drop worm. That report's courtesy of Ken Sturdivant with southernfishing.com. At Lake Lanier, Buck Cannon with Bucktails Guide Service reports the stripers are on the move looking for the coolest water they can find. The downline bite is still strong, using bluebacks for bait. And finally, at Lake Weiss, crappie are under deeper docks. Look for large, older docks that create a lot of shade. Use a 1 24th ounce Jiffy Jig in colors JJ13 and JJ17. A lot of large crappie are starting to show up on the old river channel ledges in the main lake and in the riverside area. That report's also courtesy of Ken Sturdivant at southernfishing.com. Stick around, we've got more of the outdoors coming your way, to include a conversation with Cole Gardner about recovering gut-shot deer. This portion of the show is brought to you by our friends at WorkSharp. And if you are hunting this fall, you know the importance of a sharp knife. You're going to need it for gutting that animal, butchering that animal, taking the hide off that animal, and there's a good chance you're going to have to sharpen it more than once while you're doing these things in the field. That's why a pocket knife sharpener or the guided field sharpener from WorkSharp are great items to have with you. Whether you're after deer, elk, pronghorn, or bear, a sharp knife helps you get things done after you drop that animal. Look for WorkSharp products at sporting goods stores, hardware stores, and ranch and home stores near you, or online at worksharptools.com. That's worksharptools.com.
In today's news, I'm cooking a brisket. Let's go to Jill at my house to see how it's going.
This is your house and you brought me and the crew to check on your brisket?
That's correct, Jill. How's it looking?
This is a Camp Chef Woodwind Wi-Fi. You know you can check your cook right from your phone, right?
I didn't know that was an option, Jill. Well, never mind. But before you leave, can you feed the dog?
What? No.
When we get back, why is my check engine light on? The answer may shock me.
When you think of Henry Repeating Arms, you likely think of their American-made classic lever-action rifles and beautiful Golden Boy and Tribute Edition rifles. It doesn't stop there, though. Henry also has the Henry Long Ranger and lever-action Supreme models, as well as their big boy revolvers, the 9mm Homesteader carbine, and the venerable AR-7 survival rifle. Check out the entire line of Henry Repeating Arms firearms and find an authorized dealer near you at henryusa.com.
Are you looking to reel in the marketing opportunity of a lifetime? America Outdoors Radio has sponsorships available, and we offer affordable platforms to reach thousands of listeners. Find out more by contacting John Kruse through his website at americaoutdoorsradio.com.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. It's deer hunting season, and we all want to make the perfect shot for a clean, ethical kill. But sometimes you're a little bit off, and sometimes you're going to hit that deer in the gut. And a person who's done that before wrote a great article on 5 steps to recovering a gut-shot deer for the National Deer Association is Cole Gander. Cole, welcome to the show.
John, I appreciate your time and having me on.
So you went through this experience yourself, and I'm sure there was a lot of emotions when you realized where you hit your buck.
Absolutely. It is the most heartbreaking thing that a hunter can go through. I mean, we spend all the time, before season practicing, working on shot placement, watching our shot placement videos so that we familiarize ourselves with a whitetail's anatomy. And then, things unfortunately always don't go according to plan. And it's not a great feeling on the hunter whenever we don't make that quick, clean kill, but we have to do everything in our power to follow up and recover that animal.
Let's talk about some steps that you have, tips that you have to recover that animal. It is going to be a lethal kill, but it's going to take a while until that animal's down for sure. So the first tip you have is get your bearings, literally. Tell me more about this.
Yeah, so as we were just talking about, emotions. Right after that shot, your adrenaline's going to be flowing, your blood's going to be pumping, and in that moment, you tend to forget a lot of things. And the best thing that you can do is take a moment, stop, watch where that animal went after you make that shot. Fortunately, a lot or most of us at this point in time have a smartphone. All those smartphones have compass apps on them, and you can just pull that compass app up. You can then point it in the direction that deer ran, and compass bearing to mark that direction. That way, whenever you're going through all of those emotions that we were just talking about, you have that compass bearing to look back on, and you have a great line to be able to start to look for that deer going into our next step for recovery.
All right, the next tip, when in doubt, back out. Now, a lot of folks, I'm sure, want to just go right after that deer, but that's a mistake, isn't it?
It is. The worst thing that you can do if you do make that shot, hit the deer in the stomach, is to back out. Just give that deer plenty of time. It could take 8 to 12 to 24 hours for that deer to expire. I mean, if you push that deer out of that first bed where he laid down, your chances of recovery go down dramatically. So the best thing that you can do is just back out, give that deer plenty of time to expire in that first bed, which will likely be 100 to 300 yards from that point of impact or wherever you shot that deer at. Him or her plenty of time, back out, and you'll know that if you shot that deer in the evening, it's going to be a sleepless night ahead, but go out that following morning and try to recover that animal. And vice versa, if you shot that deer in the morning, go ahead and give that deer almost all day and go out there in the evening to try and recover that animal.
Gotcha. Next tip, take the track slow. And you mentioned that recovering a gut shot deer is a marathon, not a sprint. Explain that.
Yeah, so the worst thing, again, that you can do is get in a hurry. If you jump the gun, whether it's going out there too early, you don't back out, or you just pick up the track and start going along too fast. You run the risk of pushing that deer out of his bed again, and you also run the risk of overlooking some key clues along that trail, whether that's a drop of blood, whether that's a hoof print where that deer ran. Maybe it's a bed with blood and gut material in it. If you go too fast, you run the risk of overlooking those key details, and you also run the risk, if that deer is still alive, bumping him from a bed. And again, your chances of recovery are going downhill.
All right, next one. Call in the cavalry, because trying to recover a gut shot deer just by yourself, that can be pretty difficult, as you just mentioned. So what do you mean by this?
Yeah, so as hunters, we owe it to that animal to be able to get out there, put in our best effort to recover that animal, and hopefully put that venison in the freezer. And if it's a nice trophy, trip to the taxidermist. And we owe it to that animal to pull out all the stops in recovery. And, because of that location of that hit, there's a good chance that hole could become plugged up with other materials, and there might not be much of a blood trail to try and track that animal. And if the ground's not wet, you don't have any hoof prints to follow, it can be tough. So we have to pull out all the stops, and after that blood trail dries up, you may have to call in a tracking dog. Many states now allow licensed dog trackers to come out there and track your deer and hopefully find that animal for you. Another growing industry is our deer drone industry, the use of thermal drones, where legal, to be able to go up, fly over an area, and find that deer on the thermal imaging. That's another great tool. And then if none of those options are available, you can get together your neighboring hunters, landowners, family members, whoever you can, to get out there and sort of grid search the property and, put those recovery odds back in your favor. Because chances are, whenever you make that stomach or gut shot, there's a good chance that blood trail's going to be very faint or non-existent, and we owe it to that animal to pull out all those stops to recover that deer as quickly and as ethically as we can.
Some great advice on recovering a gut shot deer from Cole Gander with the National Deer Association. If you want to read the whole article, just go to deerassociation.com and look for 5 steps to recover a gut shot deer. Cole, we've got a couple minutes left. Why don't you tell us about what you do at the National Deer Association?
Yeah, thanks, John. I am actually the Northern Missouri Deer Outreach Specialist, so I'm blessed to live in the Midwest, the land of the giants, as people like to say. But as a part of that, I have the opportunity here at the National Deer Association to carry on our mission of ensuring the future of wild deer. I have the opportunity to assist landowner cooperatives in, better managing their deer management on their properties, sort of helping them with data management and all those sorts of great things, as well as assist with our deer management assistance program here in the state of Missouri. And that again, just helps landowners be able to practice quality deer management on their property better, assisting with our chronic wasting disease sampling efforts here, crucially important, especially in this day and age, as well as, getting new hunters out in the woods through our phenomenal Field to Fork program and helping to recruit, retain, and reactivate new hunters here in the state of Missouri. So there's never a dull day.
Well, thanks for what you do. And folks, if you want to find out more about the National Deer Association, just go to their website, deerassociation.com. Cole, thanks for sharing all of this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it.
Next, we're heading to the state of Maine, where A game warden named Chad Robertson and his canine named Storm located a missing 91-year-old man. Valmar Thompson of Edgecombe, Maine, lives alone at his house and has caregivers who are there every day. On the day in question, one of his caregivers arrived at 10 a.m., and Thompson was not at the house, but lights were on in the house and the stove was warm, indicating he was there recently. When the caregiver came back later during the day, Thompson was still not there. So, a call was placed to the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office, who contacted the Maine Warden Service. Game Warden Robertson and his canine Storm located Thompson in the woods, disoriented and sitting on a stone wall with one shoe missing, just as freezing temperatures started to set in that evening. Thompson was loaded onto an ATV and brought to a waiting ambulance where he was examined. He was then released to his family. Congrats to all those who saved Valmar Thompson. That's a great story.
Come explore the Dalles in Oregon for outdoors fun. Hike amongst the wildflowers, bike our riverfront trail, or visit the Gorge Discovery Center where you can enjoy a live raptor display, or even check out our National Neon Sign Museum. But don't forget the fishing. We've got salmon, steelhead, bass, walleye, and monster-sized sturgeon waiting just for you. When the day is done, tell those tall tales at one of our wineries, breweries, or restaurants and plan your next adventure. Find out more at explorethedalles.com.
John Kruse here, looking to improve your bottom line as a business that caters to outdoors enthusiasts? You can do so for a very cost-effective price by advertising on America Outdoors Radio. I will tailor a marketing campaign for you, reaching hundreds of thousands of listeners every weekend, tuning into our show on 135 stations in 33 states. We've got a sponsor opening right now, so contact me through my website at americaoutdoorsradio.com, and let's talk about helping you. You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. We've got Richard Mann on the line. He's a very well-known gun writer out of West Virginia, and he just wrote an article for Field and Stream about the 12 best rifle cartridges for elk hunting. Richard, welcome to the show.
All right, glad to be here.
What makes for an exceptional elk cartridge?
One you can shoot really well.
Well, I noticed in the article you had 3 things in common for your top elk stoppers.
Yep. Muzzle energy is above 2,400 foot-pounds. I don't know how practical that is. You can kill an elk with a 30-30, but that kind of groups all the modern cartridges together that a lot of people consider capable for elk. And then push bullets past 500 yards was still delivering reliable bullet upset. You know, you want the bullet to work when it gets to the target. You want it to deform and damage as much tissue as possible. And a lot of people think they can hit elk out to 500 yards now. And then the last requirement was manageable recoil. You know, you could build you up a rifle in 50 BMG and go try to shoot an elk, but you're not going to have any fun. Right. By sighting it in for sure.
All right, so let's talk about some of your picks. Now, the best overall was the 300 Winchester Magnum, which I always thought had a reputation for vicious recoil.
It does. It kicks a little more. You know, the common accepted recoil level for most adult men is around 20 foot-pounds, which is about where the 30-06 is at. 300 Winchester Magnum is going to kick a little harder than that, but honestly, that's based on like an 8-pound rifle, and most of the rifles people are carrying today, once they get a big scope on them, they're pushing 10, maybe even 11 pounds. So in a rifle that heavy, the 300 Win Mag is not that bad, and it's especially not that bad when you're shooting it offhand. Gotcha.
All right, let's talk about the best long-range rifle cartridge.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could argue 300 Win Mag, 7 Mag, all the Weatherby cartridges would fit in there, but the 7mm PRC with its fast twist barrel and these high BC bullets, it's hard to guard against that.
Now, the best light recoiling one you had was a 25-06 from Remington. I could see that as a deer cartridge, but for elk, really?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, a lot of people, they get caught up in this world of high-power rifle cartridges. We were killing elk a long time ago with 50 caliber muzzleloaders, you know. all of these modern cartridges will kill elk. You just have to work within the limits. You know, you wouldn't be one to be shooting an elk at 800 yards with a 25-06, but you put a good bullet like a Barnes triple shock or a Nosler partition in a 25-06, you're not going to have any trouble killing an elk.
Speaking of classic and old school rifle cartridges, your best timber is a 4570 Government, which I always associate like with a Henry rifle.
Yeah, well, you know, that cartridge has been around. It's one of the oldest centerfire cartridges. It started out in the smokeless era. Up until around the 80s, it was just about gone. And then Marlin reintroduced it, and Ruger introduced it in a Ruger number 1. And all of a sudden, all the manufacturers, ammo manufacturers, realized, hey, we can start loading this ammo a lot hotter in these good guns. And now the 4570, you can kind of get 3 tiered levels of ammo. The original load, kind of mid-power loads, 300-grain bullet at about 1,900 feet per second. And then some of the loads, like from Buffalo Bore, 430-grain bullet at almost 2,000 feet per second. I've taken several Cape Buffalo with that. So it'll do anything. It just doesn't have a lot of reach. So in a quick-handling lever gun, you know, it's great in the timber.
Gotcha. Sticking with classic cartridges, a 35 Whelen is what you've got for the best classic.
Yeah, I just can't imagine a more elk-suitable cartridge than the 35 Whelen. Maybe the best, next to the 270, probably the best thing to ever come out of the 30-06, in my opinion.
And looking ahead, you've got a choice for the best newcomer. What's that?
7mm backcountry. Federal went kind of crazy with this. They were doing some work for the military and figured out how to use steel cases, and that upped the pressure. Like a 7 PRC is going to run about 60,000 PSI. That backcountry is running at 80,000 PSI. So you compare a 7 PRC and a 7 backcountry with the same bullet weight, you're going to have about 200 feet per second advantage with the 7mm backcountry. Flattest shooting, hardest hitting rifle cartridge we got now. And the great thing about it, it'll do that out of a 20-inch barrel, which makes it really suppressor friendly.
Nice. All right, folks, if you want to see what the rest of the 12 best rifle cartridges for elk hunting are, go to fieldandstream.com and look for the article by Richard Mann. But I'm not letting you go with that, because you have a brand new book out, The Ultimate Guide to Rifle Cartridges for Hunters. Tell us about this book.
Yeah, so I've been hunting all my life. Everybody says that, but my mom was hunting when she was pregnant with me, so literally all my life. And I've just always been fascinated with rifles and rifle cartridges, and over the last 50 years, I've used all kinds of them. And this book it's not really a technical manual. All this technical ballistics data is all available on the internet. This is stories about me hunting with 50 different rifle cartridges all over the United States, New Zealand, Europe, Africa, and how they work for me and what they did. And I think it gives hunters some insight into what they can expect from a rifle cartridge beyond foot-pounds and velocity and drop and all that. Like, what can you really do with these cartridges?
I'm guessing, based on the fact that you're telling stories here, that some of the cartridges featured in the book may not be necessarily the best ones for the game that you're after.
Well, and then, you know, just like this list of best elk cartridges, you could add 20 more in there that would be just as good. The thing about rifle cartridges, I think, is it gives hunters an ability to individualize their rifle. You know, all Remington 700s are basically the same. All these different rifles, you know, you show up at camp, everybody might have a Remington 700, but you can pick your rifle cartridge and individualize your rifle with your cartridge. It's like putting chrome wheels on a sports car, you know, like we used to do when we were young. It gives everybody a little bit of an opportunity to tweak their rifle and their hunting experience to suit them and what they like. Big bullets going slow, little bullets going fast. You know, everybody's got their own preference.
I also noticed that you have some commentary for some pretty big-name writers in the shooting industry. Who are those?
Yeah, I reached out to people that I've hunted with and that have helped me over the years. John Barsness, probably one of the best writers that I've known in the outdoor world. Very knowledgeable rifle guy. He's commented on some cartridges. Dave Petzel, the rifle editor at Field and Stream. Tim Sundles at Buffalo Bore Ammunition. He's got a lot of experience with a lot of different cartridges. And then Jeffrey Whalen, my professional hunter in Africa. I mean, he's probably seen more animals fall than all of those guys put together. So I reached out to them and got some comments from them on several cartridges.
Absolutely. And I see Ron Spomer is on the list too, one of my favorite guests here on the show.
Yeah, I don't know how I forget Ron. I guess because Ron's got another book. He wrote a book about 7mm rifle cartridges. Very similar to mine, except Ron's got this addiction to 7mm, and I've been trying to get him over it for years. So.
I love it. So what's one of the more memorable stories that you're sharing in this book?
Oh, that's tough. It's probably actually a hunt my son was on when he shot his first buffalo at 17 in Africa. That's probably one of the most memorable. But there's a bunch of stories in there, and I think that's the thing that maybe connects hunters to some cartridges. You know, Dad had a 30-06, and I seen Dad do this with his 30-06, or I shot my first deer with a 30-30. You know, all of these hunts that we go on are really memorable if we're successful, and I think a lot of that helps us build a relationship with rifle cartridges.
What's the website folks should go to if they want to buy this book, The Ultimate Guide to Rifle Cartridges for Hunters?
The best thing they can do is go to Amazon, and it's available on Amazon.com, and the actual title is Rifle Cartridges for Hunters, and it should be available now.
The title again is Rifle Cartridges for the Hunter. It's available at Amazon.com for $34. That's Rifle Cartridges for the Hunter. A hunting journal spanning a half a century, all sorts of great stories about hunts and the cartridges that were used in them. Richard, thanks for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you, John.
This portion of the show is brought to you by our friends at Henry Repeating Arms, and they've got something brand new out. It is the Lever Action Supreme Rifle, and it takes lever action rifles to a whole new level. They have completely reinvented the lever action rifle here. For example, it actually comes with either a 5-round magazine to comply with certain state laws, or an AR-style magazine that will hold a whole bunch more ammunition. There's brand new, innovative iron sights, and it's also really easy to put a red dot or compact scope on top of it, too. It's lightweight, and it comes in 223, 5.56, and 300 blackout calibers with more to come. You can find out more about the Lever Action Supreme Rifle from Henry Repeating Arms, made right here in America, by going to henryusa.com. That's henryusa.com. Check out the Lever Action Supreme and look for a dealer near you.
Hi, I'm Craig Boddington. I've written about hunting for 40 years, much of it in bear country. I trust my life to bear spray because the research is in. It stopped bears 92% of the time and prevented injury 98% of the time. Bear spray requires less accuracy and won't harm your companions or the bear. Carry bear spray in bear country. Keep it accessible and practice.
When you buy a sharpener from WorkSharp, you aren't purchasing a product, you're making a very good long-term investment. Whether you're buying a knife sharpener for the field, a knife and tool sharpener for the shop, or have a knife sharpener on the kitchen counter, you'll find they are durable and will do the job of sharpening your knives and tools for years to come. Make sharp happen with WorkSharp at a sporting goods store near you and at WorkSharpTools.com.
Modular. When it comes to getting the most out of your Camp Chef 2-burner propane stove, that's the word to use. Sure, you can cook directly over either burner with a pot or pan, but how about putting a grill box on to serve up burgers, steaks, or chicken? Put a griddle on to cook up your breakfast. Pizza? We've got that covered too with our pizza oven that you place right over the stove. Whatever you're cooking while camping or at home, Camp Chef has got you covered. Find out more about modular stove accessories at campchef.com today.
Hey, I'm Brant, and her name is Sherry.
Hello.
She's a friend of mine whom we were just praying for because of a surgery she just went through.
Yes, and I am very happy about something you actually talk about all the time, which is
MediShare.
That is right.
Yeah. So what was your experience like with MediShare and the healthcare bills?
Honestly, Brant, seamless. And what a blessing that is when you're already nervous about a health issue, which I was.
Yeah.
Members shared my expenses. There were zero problems. And let me tell you, having people pray with you when you call in with your need, that is just...
It is refreshing.
Yes, that's what it is.
What I keep telling people love MediShare, and they love saving tons of money, too. The typical family can save $500 a month.
I am very thankful for MediShare. It is so different, and I mean different in a very, very good way.
It is good different. Call now. They're easy to talk to, and you can get a price within 2 minutes. Call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio, and we've got Brooks Hansen on the line with Camp Chef. He just got back from a deer camp in Nebraska. Brooks, welcome to the show.
Hey, John, thanks for having me on. Excited to talk food, hunting, and all the other good stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And let's start off with this deer camp in Nebraska. This was for members of the media, and what did this event look like?
Yeah, so this was a really, really cool event. Called it Beyond Hunter Education Camp. We were in wall tents, a full deer camp experience. We had outdoor writers from non-endemic media that were not hunting-based. So you're talking about writers or journalists that write for publications like maybe Outside Magazine or Men's Journal that are showing an interest in hunting and where your meat comes from and just the organic, sustainable stuff that we gain from, being in the field. And so these media members had never hunted before but had an interest, and their outlet really want to tell that story. So we had 4 journalists in camp that had never hunted. We did a crash course. They'd taken their hunter safety before they came and got their tags. And then we did a crash course hunter safety class. So the first day, we walked through just basically went through what they learned in hunter safety, but did more in depth.
Right.
And had several brands involved that kind of talked about why they do what they do to really benefit these hunters, from ammunition to guns to targets to calls and camo, and just kind of give them the whole idea of what the hunting community is about. Then we went to the range, and each of these journalists, they got a lot of time. They got to learn how to zero a rifle and shoot their rifle and get it on paper and then get it dialed in and shot out to 600.
Wow.
Which we were not obviously encouraging them to shoot that far. It was just so they could get used to it and shoot, targets out there, which was really cool. We were advising, and it did happen, kind of the areas that we were hunting in, that their shots would be under 150 yards, especially for a new hunter. We really wanted to drive that home, that we wanted to be as ethical as possible. So we learned about hunting and shot placement, and then we transitioned to the range, and then from there it was into the field, and the next 2 days was spent trying to harvest a white-tailed doe deer. All 4 were successful, and then they got to get their hands dirty and learn how to field dress a deer. We did, of the 4 deer, we did kind of some demonstrations on, and they got to help and do their own. 2 of them we field dressed it, the other 2 we quartered. So they kind of got the idea behind each way, so like kind of the gutless method. Then it was cold enough, we hung them in the trees for a day. We had some hangers, let them hang. I wish we could have hung them for 4 or 5 days, but we were crunched on time, so they hung for a day, day and a half. And then that final day, we set up the inside of the tent, which was a big wall tent, which we weren't all staying together. We had our individual tents, but we had a social tent that we'd eat meals in and had the kitchen in. We kind of revamped and reorganized that into a meat processing area. And so I put the tent up a little higher, countertop height, and reorganized that, and then went to town and showed them how to break down their deer. So they got to process it. They got to put together all the straps into a grind pile. They got to clean up their back straps. They got to trim up the roasts. And then each of these journalists went home with a backpack cooler full of about 45, 50 pounds of clean, sustainably harvested venison. And so they got the whole experience from start to finish. Meanwhile, while we were in camp, I had brought along a lot of wild game, and we went each night when we would cook different parts different ways to kind of give them an idea. So we had some roasts and we had some backstraps, and we did certain things with those cuts of meat to show them really this is how you can cook your wild game when you get home. So it was a really cool educational camp.
And I love the fact that you're reaching out to non-hunters from these other outdoors magazines, because it's going to open some eyes, not just to them, but to their readers as well, about we should get into hunting. Maybe we should, get into this wonderful, lean, sustainable meat and harvest it ourselves. So good for you for being part of this. Are you the one that came up with this, or who came up with this idea?
Yeah, it was kind of a brainchild of mine. And then on top of that, Joe Arterburn with Arterburn Outdoors, he took it over. He's got all the camp stuff, and he puts on incredible media camps. And I kind of approached him and said, hey, what do you think about this? And he's like, let's go. And so we just started this is our third year that we've done it, and trying to introduce new journalists to hunting that are interested. The cool part is, I've received a lot of feedback recently from the journalists, and they tell me my favorite part was the food. Mm-hmm. My favorite part was being able to taste and eat wild game while we were there and showing. So it's, like you said, it's not just getting hunters to go out and kill stuff. I mean, it's obviously a part of conservation, and there's an aspect to that. But it was the fact that they got to see where everything came from and then actually enjoy a really good wild game meal.
Well, let's talk about your hunting. I understand this weekend you're going out for the opener of deer hunting season in Utah. Are you after mule deer, I presume?
Yeah, it'll be mule deer. Me and my boy both have tags. Excited. Saturday morning is our rifle season opening. They've got new regulations in our unit. So the new regulations this year are we are not allowed to use scopes on our rifles. Oh. So it's all iron sights, open sights. So we spent some time at the range a little while ago and trying to dial in open sights, which is going to be a fun, challenging factor. We're going to limit ourselves to 100 yards. So it's just so hard to consistently or be consistent past 100 yards with open sights. I mean, it's doable, but I think we want to be really careful, especially when we got an animal's life at stake. That's
really an interesting rule. I'm sure it's rooted in some sort of conservation, but you're going to have to help me out with this. Why did they do this?
Obviously, I think it's to make it more challenging and to help grow the herd so not as many bucks are being killed. I haven't really dove deep enough into it to tell you exactly why, but like you said, conservation and management, it's just part of the management plan where they're going to try to increase the buck to doe ratio in this particular unit.
All right. We got a couple of minutes left here, and I wanted to go over something that you like to make for hunters at deer camp.
Well, I like to make a lot of things, but one that we just did at this last camp that's probably one of my favorites is a venison stuffed backstrap. Generally, I really like a plain backstrap, but can't go wrong with little pinwheel stuffing. So I'll take a backstrap and I'll butterfly it open. Don't cut it all the way through. You'll take about an 8-inch loin, and as it's open, you'll spread some cream cheese inside. And then you'll have some cooked bacon that's really chopped bacon, cooked bacon bits. Throw the bacon in, a little Dijon cheese, and then breadcrumbs. Those breadcrumbs will kind of help bind it. And then you fold it back over, and then you get some butcher string, and you tie it up. Tie it up with butcher string. Get a hot cast iron skillet over a Camp Chef stove. You put just a little bit of butter and garlic and rosemary in that, and it's screaming hot. And you sear it on all sides to a perfect medium rare slice, and it's a delicious, delicious meal.
Oh my gosh, Brooks. I don't know why I talk to you because I go off my diet every time I do. This sounds absolutely delicious.
Mission accomplished.
You want to find some more recipes and great gear to cook it on, just go to campchef.com. You can also find Camp Chef products in quality sporting goods stores all over North America. They're the gold standard of outdoors cooking as far as I'm concerned, and they've got everything you need to be successful and happy in deer camp or in the backyard or tailgating this football season. It's all waiting for you at campchef.com. Brooks, thanks as always.
Thanks, John.
Our next story also has to do with consuming deer, and it comes at us from the Outdoor Wire. It's about Hunters Feeding Michigan, a Michigan Department of Natural Resources program connecting donors, wild game processors, and charities to help feed those in need. In fiscal year 2025, 140,000 pounds of donated venison was processed. That equates to more than 560,000 servings of venison and sets a new annual record for the program, which allows hunters to share their harvest by donating deer at participating processors and helps distribute venison donations across Michigan. Hunters Feeding Michigan program specialist Joe Mesgrove says every year it seems like more hunters choose to donate their harvest to the program, which helps feed even more of our neighbors across the state. She went on to say, I frequently receive calls and letters from the local food pantries thanking the program for providing much needed protein to their communities. Since 2007, the program has provided more than 3 million servings of protein-rich venison to those in need. The DNR asks that hunters consider donating $3 to the program when they buy their license. That contribution covers processing costs, turning donated deer into meals. A donation of $3 provides a venison meal for over 4 Michiganders. You can find out more about this program at michigan.gov/hunters feeding Michigan. And on that note, it's time to wrap things up for this weekend. If you didn't get to hear the whole show, we will upload it as a podcast in the next few days, unless hunting gets in the way, of course, or maybe fishing. It's hard to keep me off the water or out of the field this time of year. If you're going to be on the road this hunting season, check out our website at AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com. We're airing 160 stations across the nation, to include the American Forces Network, and there's bound to be a station near you. The website again, AmericaOutdoorsRadio.com, and don't forget to check out the sponsors of our show too. Until next week, here's hoping you're blessed, you're healthy, and do remember this. It is your country and you're outdoors, so get out there and enjoy it.